The importance of the conference is that the people who are here today are the ones on daily basis dealing with the issues of the working class.
We're not here to debate whether the question of the minimum wage is important or not. We're here to talk implementation.
The idea behind this conference, firstly, we had taken a decision in terms of our annual performance plan that we must have a conference of this magnitude. But behind that was the realization that a lot of institutions, when they organize conferences, they invite us as participants. But most of the data that they use and the participants in these conferences is the CCMA's one. So this confirmed to us that we are actually an active and a very important participant in the labor market. We then took a decision that we must then initiate our own conference. And that's how the idea of the conference was born. The direct question that I'm asking is, are we ready to do this? Are we ready to implement the bills soon to be acted as scheduled? The answer is, we are getting ready.
We recognise the importance of the minimum wage in addressing wage inequality and in addressing the challenge of really ultra-low wages.
Today we have the labour legislative instruments that talk to all the 6 worker rights demands contained in the Freedom Charter and arguably all the ILO core conventions. This is something to be proud of as a young democracy. Some experts have ventured to say, based on what we have achieved in the labour policy space, South Africa punches way above its weight as the policies it pursues are way up there with the best in the world. That today we are sitting in this room examining our state of readiness to implement the national minimum wage is a living testimony of how serious we are about transformation.
I think one of the issues is around the importance of all the social partners lending their weight to this really important piece of legislation, that we all need to get involved and make sure that we make our respective constituencies aware of what's involved, and that we really stick to the compromises that gave rise to the agreements that gave rise to the bill.
The one thing which is important for us, which we are currently doing with some of our experts, is that the submissions that we've already prepared to Parliament, because today is the last day to submit any changes that we wish to make in the National Minimum Wage and the Basic Conditions of Employment Act. From this conference and from what we've heard from yesterday, it has given us new ideas based on the questions that came up on things that we may not have anticipated at the time we made our original submissions.
I think it is clear from the legislation that is proposed that the national minimum wage will be 20 rand per hour. And if it goes to 3,500, it means they are going to look at that and also check the deductions in terms of the basic conditions of employment.
We all have a responsibility, ladies and gentlemen. The responsibility starts with the employee. You've got a responsibility to know what your rights are in a workplace, so that when your rights are violated, you can then go to you can come to the Department of Labour to assist. But beyond that, organized labour also has a responsibility to play, particularly unions at a shop floor level. And that is why, by design, when we conduct inspections, as a matter of principle, our inspectors need to involve organized labour, so that no inspection should be concluded without the members of organized labour being part thereof.
I was astounded by how well attended the conference is. I think it was definitely on point, and I think it's going to go a long way towards raising the discussion around the national minimum wage and raising awareness around the minimum wage among social partners, but also within the CCMA.
It is not about institutions of enforcement. It is about whether, when we implement execution and enforce, that the system is effective. That's the drive. It's about effectiveness. It's not about glory also. It's about making sure that the one who says, I have an award, the person gets what's stated in the award. that if there's a compliance order, the person gets what's stated in the compliance order. That when there's an agreement in the undertaking, that the employee gets what was undertaken. It's simple as that.
What has been important for me is to understand how it impacts on domestic workers, because those are the questions that our workers ask time and again, because they need to afford, paying the workers according to what is prescribed. The 80% initial implementation for domestic workers is something that I did not have understanding of, but also it shapes our approach in terms of the wage negotiations, which is something new for my organization, because for a long time we were not unionized.
Yes, there is still a lot of challenges that lie ahead, but also there's a lot of progress that we've made. Let us not be demoralized by fear. Let's conquer our fear, and if we do that, the implementation of the national minimum wage, I can tell you, and I'm confident about that, it would indeed be a success if we all work together. We will conquer the challenges that lie ahead.
As part of the state of readiness and our process of getting ready, we are amending the rules. The reason why I'm making this statement so authoritatively is for a simple reason. When we amend rules, those that are expected to participate in the amendment of the rules do not participate. When we publish the rules, when we gazette the rules, then we receive grievances afterwards. So be advised, the CCMA is amending the rules. Submissions are therefore being made. The Law Society, we've met with them, they've made submissions already into our rules, telling us about the legal practitioners and right of appearance and things like that, which we take into account. And in the drafting of the rules, one of the things that we do is to take into account challenges that we may have experienced in the application of the rules. And of course, the famous Rule 25 will always be subject of review and amendment, and it is part of those.
So I think we're obviously under time pressure, and we know there's still a lot of processes that have to be finalized. The bills have to go through Parliament to be approved. The exemption system has to be tested and implemented and opened up, and the regulations have to be finalized. And we know that there hasn't been enough time for awareness and communication and skills and capacity building. So that needs to still take place, and we have just under a month and a half before the system's meant to go live.
Let me just give a confirmatory statement. Any legal process that runs that does not have time limits is offending justice. We're clear about it. One of the things that we are clear about is that there's no process that comes to the CCMA that will not be subjected to time frames.
I think I've also appreciated the richness and the depth of information that the CCMA provided. I mean, linkages with ILO, also the fact that we could hear perspectives of the workers, perspective of the youth, and the overall impact of these on the working hours, on unemployment or employment thereof. I think it has been I'm happy to have participated in this workshop.
I think it's been very insightful. I think they've really provided everybody with a lot of information concerning the historical background of the national minimum wage. Also just really debunking all the myths concerning what it is to have the national minimum wage in terms of its realizations, its implications, and also in terms of its implementation and how it's basically going to work. So I think it's really given a lot of people a lot of hope with regards to really managing the issue of inequality and really what is its impact in terms of employment.
Let us all accept, if anyone were to successfully understand and apply the minimum wage, you cannot interpret the minimum wage bill alone. You will fail. At all times, and what we teach, you will interpret the minimum wage bill together with the basic conditions of Employment Act. It is inseparable twins. And when we teach, that's what we educate in our advocacy program. South African society has just joined the world as an institution of a country that has a minimum wage that applies right across.